friends, it's Amanda here from Fun Hands-On Learning. Today's video is going to be the second episode in a series that I've started on my channel called Homeschool Help. So it's videos that I'm doing to kind of give a little bit of my thoughts on some homeschool topics, and maybe they will help you in your homeschool journey. Now, if you're new to my channel, I am a mom of 8. I have 8 sons, and we have been homeschooling for almost 11 years now. My channel is all about growing and learning a hands-on way, so we do a lot of hands-on activities in our homeschool. I'm a former teacher, and I like to bring in all of those ideas and share them with you, and I hope that you are enjoying this channel. If you are new, please remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned to my channel if these videos are helpful for you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the topic for today. Now, I am in no way an expert on this topic. This was a hard thing for me to really get a grasp on as I started homeschooling. Even though I had been a classroom teacher for 10 years before we started homeschooling, I still had a very difficult time with this topic. So what is the topic? Well, if you saw the description of this video, then you know what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about how do we teach multiple children at different ages and different levels at the same time and not lose our sanity. So there were so many years that I had a new baby. Obviously, like I told you, I have 8 children. So I was constantly dealing with babies and toddlers while I was trying to teach the older children. And so that dynamic can be very difficult because you have in your head the way you want your day to go. You have a plan on how you want to teach something and just exactly what's going to happen. And those plans just get chucked out the window when you got toddlers and babies. Am I right? And even if you don't have toddlers and babies, those plans can get chucked out the window just because you have children. And our children are all different, just like we're all different. And so sometimes we have good days and bad days and things happen, and our plans are well laid out, but don't always come to fruition, right? So I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that I've learned. And like I said, I'm still learning on this topic, okay? But I'm going to share with you my thoughts on things that have worked for me, and hopefully you will get something out of this anyway. And then you can, of course, leave comments below on ideas that you have or what has worked in your homeschool. All right, so how do I teach multiple children and ages at one time? I'm looking at my phone, by the way, because I did write this out so I wouldn't forget something. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. Okay, so the first tip I have for you is to have your older children do their independent work while you're teaching the younger ones. So I've always had the dynamic of having older children who could work independently on some of their worksheets or reading or things like that, while I'm honing in on those preschoolers, toddlers, kindergarteners that really need a lot of focus and time. So I would have it set up so that my older children, like, this is reading time, you need to read from, for the next 20 minutes, or this is time for you to get your math done, here's the sheet you need to do, this is the lesson we went over, now you need to do this independently. And they would sit down and do that independently. Now I'm talking about my older children, we're talking 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade and beyond, where they're able to kind of sit down for a little while on their own and work independently. 2nd graders may be a challenge at that, but you can get them to do it. When I was a classroom teacher, we would do stations, and the children would be set up at different centers or different stations, and they were able to work independently while I would, say, take a small reading group off to the side. So it can be done. It's just a lot of time and practice. You actually have to practice these things, which sounds silly, like I'm practicing working independently, but yes, you have to actually set it up and say, okay, this time of day is when I am working with the little ones, so this at this time, this is what you're doing, older children, and you explain it to them, and then you practice it. Okay, we're going to practice. Now, when I say go, we're all going to go to our spots, and we're going to do what it is that we're supposed to be doing, and we're going to stick to it. Okay, go. And then you actually practice it, and you see how that works, okay? So that the children get an idea of what is expected of them. Okay, so that's my first tip, is just to have your older children set up so that they can work independently. Oh, and by the way, in years past, I have made lists for them. So I'll have just like a checkoff list, and it'll say what they're supposed to do. Like when it's independent work time, you are supposed to, and it'll have like a box, read your story for the day or whatever it is, or read 2 or 3 chapters out of whatever book. And then it'll have another check off, do problems, 15 to 25 in your math book, okay, whatever it is. But it'll have a little check off list of the independent items that I wanted them to do so that they can be successful in doing those. They're staying on task, but then I'm able to work one-on-one with my little ones, or if it's, say, a baby or something, I'm able to be with the baby. Okay, so that's my first tip. My second tip is to have activities, puzzles, or toys prepared as special school items for your little ones. So if you have toddlers and little kids, have some special toys or special things that they only do and they only play with when it's school time. And then what I would do is I would set those toys off to the side. I would actually put them in our school cabinet. And then when it was school time, when I was working with the older children, I would tell them, okay, now it's time for you to do some of your school stuff. And I would take out the crayons or the whatever special things that I had for them, and they could kind of play on their own with it while I was working with the older kids. And it kind of gave them a feeling of being a big kid, and it also kept them occupied so that I could work with the older children. Now, it didn't always go perfectly. Definitely didn't always go perfectly. Sometimes they would get bored in 2 minutes and they're off, and you kind of just have to roll with it, okay? But it is an option, so try it out. Sometimes I would even have some of my hands-on learning activities that you've seen in my other videos set up for those little kids. And if it was something that they had done before in the past and they already knew how to do it, and they could kind of do it, play with it, okay? They may not do the activity perfectly like when I'm sitting there with them doing it, but they could use it and play with it and pretend, and actually they did learn. They were able to do some of it on their own while I'm working with the other kids. And that's fine too. Okay, third, do activities together and adjust the ability level for multiple kids. So this is very helpful. For example, this year I have an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old. My 11-year-old is about to turn 12. But there are a lot of things that they can do together because they are so close in age that they do science together and they do history together. And that really cuts down on what I have to prep and what I have to do when you can combine subjects, okay? And I do that with my younger kids too. And I know you've seen in my hands-on learning videos, I have a few kids that can kind of do the same hands-on learning activities together because they're about at the same level. They may not be the same age, but they're at the same level, or they're close to the same level. And so there's a lot of things that we can just kind of combine. And when you can combine your children like that, it really takes a lot of weight off your shoulders, because you're worried about, well, this child's in 3rd grade and this child's in 5th grade and I have to make, or in 4th grade, and I have to make sure that he's doing 4th grade stuff and he's doing 3rd grade stuff. Well, if there's a little wiggle room in there, I would use that, and I would put them together for those subjects or those activities and learn like that. You can also differentiate your activities. So say, or your lessons, I should say. So say you're learning about World War II. Let's just use a broad topic, okay? You can differentiate that learning for all ages just as you're teaching it, then give each age something different to do. So the older children might be writing an essay, whereas the younger children are drawing a picture of the tanks that were used. I don't know. But that's kind of showing you can differentiate whatever the subject is. So you're still teaching on the same subject. The children are just expected to do something totally different. Okay, so that's another option. All right, fourth one is to, I actually kind of talked about that already. So let's go on to the last one. The last one is to give yourself grace, to know that it is not going to be perfect, and to take the time to stop and reflect and then let yourself be okay that it's not perfect. So what I mean by this is that I used to kind of flip out when my little ones always needed me, and I'd be in the middle of just a really great lesson with my elementary kids, and we were really digging in and I was helping them, but a baby needed to be nursed. A toddler is crying, and so it was always an interruption, and I just wasn't good with that because I'm like, well, I got a plan. My plan was, first we did this, and then we do this, and then we do this, and we're done with school by this time, and we're ready to, move on, and I can go do this, 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 this. I'm a list maker. I'm a plan follower. Maybe you're not that way, but I am. So when my children were really little, babies, toddlers, I had a hard time, and I had to just say, God, help me to have more grace for them and for myself. To remember that I don't have to stick to this arbitrary plan that I made. Although plans are great and we should have plans, if my little ones need me, then they need me in that moment, and I need to give them that moment. And that's a special thing about homeschooling, is that we can take those moments that we have with our children that we will never get again, and we can use those moments for bonding, for learning, for growing, and for learning to be more like Christ. I'm a Christian, so I try to use those moments to grow me in my spiritual walk and in my sanctification, become more like Christ, take the time out for the little ones when they need it. And so if somebody's crying, don't get all flustered that we're not on the schedule and we're supposed to be doing this. Just go take care of the crying one, okay? And I'm preaching to myself here because there's been so many moments where I just would get so, frustrated because we're off the plan. The plan can be gone. The plan is not what is important. What's important is this time with my children. We are learning and growing whether or not we're interrupted 20 million times by crying babies. They will learn, we will get it done, and God will give you grace to do it. So I would just say, give yourself grace and allow yourself to meet the needs of your children and sometimes veer off the plan, okay? Now, maybe you're not like me, and so veering off the plan is fine, but for me, that was my struggle. So I'm just sharing, I'm just kind of being an open book here and sharing with you my struggle. So those are my tips. I know it's not a lot. I'm not any special guru in this area, but that's just my heart and what I've done that has kind of helped us navigate through this. Now, my youngest is now 3 years old, and so he's involved a lot more in what we're doing, and we're not interrupted with baby crying a lot because the youngest is 3, so it is a little bit easier now. But I still have 8 children, and there's still a lot of dynamics going on. So again, things don't go with my plan, but I do make a plan, and we are able to stick to it a little bit more. So there is hope for those of you who are in the trenches with babies, that as they get older, it does seem to get a little bit easier. And I'm just continuing on the path of that. And plus I have older children now, and so they're a lot more independent, and they kind of help out, and I don't have as many little ones. So anyways, that's it. Those are my tips. If you have any great tips, please leave them in the comments below, because I'm sure everybody would love to hear, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching and happy learning. Bye.